This is the Uptick Newswire Stock Day podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube to stay up to date on penny stock news and interviews, public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world, with your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, we have a returning guest, and we're talking about GB Sciences, Inc. The company seeks to be an innovative technology and solution that converts the cannabis plant into medicines, also therapies and treatments for a variety of ailments. It also plans to produce consistent and measurable medical-grade cannabis concentrates, and cannabinoid therapies. They trade on the OTCQB. Their ticker symbol is GBLX, and with us today is the CEO of that company, John Poss. John, welcome to the show.
Hi, Everett. Glad to be here. Glad to be back again.
Absolutely. Good to have you here. Give my listeners, because we got a lot of new listeners, give my listeners a little bit of an about statement of who you guys are and what you guys do out there.
You know, it's really interesting. It's a hard story to explain to investors because there's so much to the story. Simply put, we're a cash flow story with an embedded moonshot. Now, what does that mean? It means that we really do everything with the plant. I sometimes think that when I'm explaining the company, it's like the story about the blind man and the elephant. You know, the first guy that comes in, you start talking about the base, which is our tissue culture. We propagate our plants from tissue, which means we avoid genetic drift, and we ensure that we have pure genetics with every plant, that we avoid genetic drift and certainly avoid the problem of strain fraud. What we sell is what it is and what it's called. That's not true for all cannabis companies in the space because they don't control their genetics. We, in fact, won a bid with LSU, and we're partnering with the LSU Ag Center to develop and commercialize pure genetics and offer them to the industry through tissue propagation. And that's a business unto itself that we'll have. Well, that's just the first piece. And the next blind man grabs a hold of the elephant and said, oh, this is cultivation. And yes, we do cultivation. We do it very well, as a matter of fact. We cultivate in clean rooms. We've got about a 200-light facility in Las Vegas. We're consistently yielding over 3 pounds a light of very high-quality cannabis. We sell all we can make. There's a great demand for it in the market because it's rich in terpenes. It's all the THC is 20 to 30%, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very fine cannabis for both the rec market and the medical market. So yes, we're a cultivator and we know how to do that very well. And well, then the next guy comes along and says, "Oh, you're an extractor." And yes, we're an extractor. We actually have just signed a deal with Cura to have their operate under our license here, and they anticipate producing up to 300,000 or 400,000 grams a month of oil, and we'll have our own extraction for the medical side, where we'll use ethanol and CO2 to produce the medical compounds. So yes, we are an extractor. And the next guy comes along and says, well, you're a science company. Yes, we're a science company. We understand the plant. We've been doing research on the plant for over 3 years. The 2 PhDs that head up that research have been working with cannabis over 10 years. We've identified evidence-based, evidence-based, not anecdotal, but evidence-based indications that there are a number of specific compounds that are efficacious in treating specific disease.
Absolutely.
And each compound is different. We embrace the entourage effect as described by Raphael Mechoulam. And so we have different compounds with different ratios of cannabinoids and terpenes that treat different sets of diseases. For example, we filed a patent for compounds for neurological disorders. We filed a patent for inflammation or mast cell modulation, and that's a different set of cannabinoids and terpenes. We have a pain compound, and we even have a heart disease compound, each of them different. And in fact, the interesting thing is most of these compounds contain very little, or in some cases, no THC. We also have acquired a patent for worldwide rights to use a dosing technique. It's a time-release pill. It's been tested in Europe, developed by the University of Seville. In their test, they were able to deliver pain relief using a capsule, pain relief for up to 11 days from one capsule, from one dosage. So we're really excited about our compounds and our dosing, and yeah, we're definitely a science company. We're all of those things, and we're getting really, one of our compounds is we're scheduling, we've planned a clinical trial for it to demonstrate efficacy. More details will be coming out about that in the next month or so. So yeah, we're everything. I don't think there's many companies in this space that have tissue propagation and a partner for commercializing tissue propagation, medical grade cannabis cultivation using clean rooms that has demonstrated very high yields and very high quality results, production where we'll have both our scientific or medicine level extraction, and we'll have a commercial level extraction with Cura. And then finally the medical compounds. We're the whole ticket, and it's hard to explain that. I don't have a 25-word soundbite to describe what we do, because we do it all.
Well, the company that we're highlighting today is GB Sciences, Inc. They trade on the OTCQB, ticker symbol GBLX, and with us today is the CEO of that company, John Poss. John, does this mean potentially investors make a single stock purchase and they get all four of these companies in one stock purchase?
That's absolutely correct. And when we say four companies, we actually mean that, because clearly tissue propagation, if we're successful with LSU and commercializing it, will undoubtedly spin that out into another company or certainly create partially attract capital to it to commercialize that technology. Cultivation. The amazing thing about our cultivation and our production or extraction is that we now we finished fifth in Texas, so we're aligned to expand to Texas. We're the next up when they grant more licenses. We've cut a deal with the Los Coyotes Indian tribe to work with them on 45,000 acres in California that's suitable to build as many greenhouses and in fact we have greenhouses. We'll have a nursery license there, which ties into our tissue propagation. We'll have a production facility there. We'll have a distribution license, and we're maneuvering our way through the state regs related to the native people, and we expect to start construction on that sometime in the next few months. So we have we have a number of additional licenses here in Nevada that we haven't developed yet, and then of course we have LSU. So we could create a national footprint for cultivation and be over $100 million company from just extraction and cultivation and extraction, all very high quality medical grade cannabis. And you move on to the life sciences. And the life sciences, when we get into the clinical trials, we're going to be talking about some very heavy spending levels, and we'll undoubtedly spin that company off too. So the companies so anyone investing in our stock is getting a play in each of these areas. And we've been told by, I know CEOs always say they have a great company, but we've been told by outside observers that we're the gold standard, that the state of Nevada has told us we're the tip of the spear in terms of the way we conduct our business and do our cultivation, et cetera, and conform to the regs. And so everywhere we go, we get all this great feedback about how great we're doing. Everyone we talk to wants to give us a license to operate in their state or their community. But our shareholders don't seem to recognize that. So for 25 cents, you get 4 moonshots, really, not one.
It's funny that when I was doing some research on your company over the weekend, it seems like you guys have a lot of opportunities for your investors. If they were listening to this, why should, or even people who don't own your stock, why should they go out and purchase your stock tomorrow?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. Number one, we're a great value proposition. We ran out the numbers on all of our projects. It take about $40 million to build them out, and we're probably going to do that with partners rather than going market for that. So we'll bring in a capital partner for every project. But the net present value, just a simplistic net present value of the projects we already have booked around $400 million.
Wow.
So a simplistic 3-year NPV at 12% and an exit value of 8 times EBITDA, which is very conservative. Just based on that conservative estimate, we got $450 million worth of value we're sitting on right now.
And your market?
Our market, what's the market cap? $30 million.
Yes, that's correct.
So yeah, I'll do the numbers on that. Then let's turn to life sciences. We get one trial that shows any kind of effectiveness of treating the disease, and we're close to starting one of those trials right now. That life sciences alone is worth $300 or $400 million overnight.
Yes.
So we're sitting here potentially, and I even begin to value what the tissue propagation will be worth if we're with LSU once we get that commercialized. So we're sitting on arguably $700 or $800 million of value today, and the market says it's worth $30 million. So I'd say we're a really good value proposition, and it's a way of covering a number of spots on the map too. Cultivation and extraction, recreational because we're developing recreation brands, medical because we have the compounds and the ability to produce them. You get a number of bets for one quarter.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's a pretty outstanding value proposition that no one seems to understand. And I take responsibility for that. I guess I've done a terrible job of explaining it to shareholders.
Oh, I don't know about that. My guest today is John Posse. He's the CEO of GB Sciences. They trade on the OTCQB, ticker symbol GBLX. Take a look at them. They're trading at 23 cents. They're grossly undervalued. You heard it from the CEO himself. John, in closing, is there anything that we didn't touch upon that you would like to get out there to the listeners?
There's just one principle that drives us that I think that helps people understand the medical versus rec. Because I think that simplistically, we believe that every consumer of cannabis deserves to have the best cannabis, medical grade cannabis, whether they're using it for recreational purposes or specific medical purposes. Everyone deserves the best, and that's what we're providing to both segments of that market.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's always enlightful that you bring us up to date what's going on in the cannabinoids and the cannabis area. I wish you nothing but continued success. Hopefully you'll come back on the show in about 40 or 50 days and give us an update.
Thanks, Everett. I appreciate you having me.
This program is entirely sponsored and produced by Uptick Newswire, LLC, which is responsible for the content. The opinions and information provided on this program are those of the guests and those of the respective companies they represent, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Uptick Newswire. Uptick Newswire encourages all listeners of this program to do their due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that will work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional. The guests of this program may have paid for its distribution and are not directly affiliated with Uptick Newswire or this station.